So this next panel is called What Does a New Entrant Role Look Like in 2030? Based on new research that says that new entrant roles are being wiped out by AI. So we're going to have a discussion about that, and I can't wait to hear the panel's thoughts on this. So please welcome to the stage our chair, Richard Lindsay-Davies, and our panel, Matt Stagg, Dushi Thangarajah, Nina Walsh, and Peter Morgan.
We have got a lot of chairs.
I've got a chaise lounge. That's all I want.
You can have a lie down. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for asking me to discuss new entrants. I thought I'd start actually to give the panel a bit of a chance to kind of introduce themselves. For each of us, just to say what our first job was in the sector, and I'll kick it off. I used to design tellies for Sony, so I was a graduate trainee for Sony, and I designed TVs. It wasn't AI, they were analog TVs, and in fact my first role was designing deflection circuits for cathode ray tubes, so I can't go back to that role now. So technology moves on constantly. So that was my first role. Matt?
First role in this industry was, well, we worked together when I used to look at the rise of mobile when we launched 4G EE. And then, well, we worked together because I co-founded the Mobile Video Alliance, just so because nobody knew, operators didn't know how stuff behaved on mobile and vice versa. So it was just to look to set that up. So I came in quite late, although I've been in data comms.
So I'm Peter Morgan. I'm course leader for broadcast engineering at Ravensbourne University, and I still keep my hand in at the BBC, doing a couple of days a week. And from September next year, I will also be course leader for multimedia and broadcast journalism at Ravensbourne. We're starting a new course. And my first role in the industry, I walked in on a Monday morning, and within 10 minutes, I was alone in a gallery in charge of presentation for BBC Parliament.
Did it have an audience? It did have an audience.
Yeah, the audience were the people that couldn't get the nurse to change the channel.
Thank you. Hi there, my name's Dushi. I'm responsible for the localization and media services for Deluxe in Europe. My first role in the industry was halfway through, probably mid-career, listening to the last panel. But I was working at Red Bee as a project manager, looking at outsource of play-out transmission services, so people like Channel 4, ITV, etc.
Excellent, excellent. So I guess all our roles have changed, although you could still be doing BBC Parliament, I guess. No, okay. So as Carrie said at the beginning, there's some research that suggests that maybe new entrant roles in the industry are dead because a lot of those kind of low-level roles are going to be taken over by AI. Do you think these roles are going to be displaced by AI, or do you think there's still an opportunity for new entrants to start their careers well in this industry, and kind of where would they start?
I think Joanne hit the nail on the head last time, is there'll be different entrant jobs and they'll be better. And actually, if you've gone in, now you come out of university, you've done a creative degree, and you just do it, you're sat login or editing in the basement, you never see any light of day. And what you're going to be able to do is, I've always said, give AI the shit jobs because it doesn't complain as much as I used to. So, and that's you're going to go in at an entry level is a better level, is where I see it taking us.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. And Dushi, what do you think new entrant will look like then, kind of building on what Matt said, going forward? I guess they're going to be different.
Yeah, it's different. I think, for people like us, we're re-engineering workflows to meet the pressures that our clients are putting on us. So absolutely, using technology to make more efficient workflows. The works and the tasks move in different places. So I 100% agree with some of the discussions previously. We were talking about more human, more considered. Those are sort of the jobs that are coming in place. I can give a perfect example, from our landscape where we look at subtitling. So people are talking, using machine translation. But you still need translators, you still need linguists, but you need it on the curation end post the machine doing the first cut. And if you wanted to oversimplify it, you kind of have upgraded your translation services, but you still need, the linguists with the capability to then check that we're getting the best curated output. So I think it's a change and a move of the type of roles, depending on the workflow we're focusing on.
And there must be something to do with we've just completed a report from Ofcom on usability, and it's all about the kind of human factors, the human bits that I kind of feel that possibly AI is going to struggle to replace. Peter, you're seeing people come through. Are there particular skills that you think the sector will need going forward based on some of these low-level?
Absolutely. And one of the things that my big takeaway from today has been that actually we all agree. We're all singing from the same song sheet. One of you put a slide up which had basically a syllabus for what your training company teaches. It could be almost a carbon copy of the syllabus that I teach as part of my university degree. And I think we're all in agreement about what the industry actually needs. It's about different ways of providing it to the customers and taking different types of student and different types of recruit and getting them through that same process.
And does that mean that you're going to be turning out new entrants that have different skills in how they use AI to old-timers like us, or do you think that they'll develop those skills as they go into the sector?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. My experience is that the students tend to find AI rather too quickly. But I see AI as a tool in the box. It's not the entire skill set. And take outside broadcasting, there is still very much a desperate need at the moment for just people that can rig an OB. And that doesn't involve AI. It's traditional skills. It comes back to the slide earlier on had down the right-hand side. It's still 3G SDI. SDI is just as popular now as it ever has been, even though we've got 2110 and all the rest of it. SDI isn't going anywhere fast. We still need people who can rig that basic end-to-end transmission chain.
I was describing it in my team as I was at least one ship's engineer. If you're out in the high seas and you're in trouble, you want someone that's going to offer to rewrite the software, someone that actually knows how it works, which is interesting. Matt, AI, it's a new thing? It's going to be new forever?
I think we have to remember in our industry it's not new at all, because you've got the iterations of machine learning. We've had machine learning a lot. Obviously, the generative side is good from the creative perspective in order to be able to look at it. But I think from my perspective, where we'll see the most useful point of AI, especially for sport, is around hyper-personalization. We've got... I wrote recently, I've got a column in Streaming Magazine, and I wrote about, it was called Skin in the Game, but it was about how you can skin the broadcast for different generations. So you might have one like Nickelodeon did with the NFL, where it was for kids and they used SpongeBob. Then you might have one that suits your super fan with heat maps and stats. And then you'll have the traditional broadcast. Now, we're going to... we're quite, in terms of a broadcast, we typically broadcast that goes, okay, Gen Z, just look after them until they grow into what they should do, which is watch sport how we put it out on the big screen. They'll be fine. And that isn't happening. They want engagement and they want community, and they have a very forensic filter about what is necessary. And that's where those new jobs come in, because those people who understand that and understand what they require will be the new entrants that we have coming in. They can use AI to be able to not just generate content, but be able to skin that content into something that's relevant for their generation. We'll still have the broadcast, and I won't be able to get out the chair much to do anything else soon, so I'll be watching it on the screen. But we're going to see big iterations of that, and the only way you can do that is with AI doing the heavy lifting. It's like having 2,000 assistants, you can segment a lot more. You've got the core content, but you can cut and put that into a way that it engages different segments. And they're the people we're going to need to address that.
Yeah, it's definitely a role for AI with cognitive decline, I guess, as well, Matt.
That's it. I just wanted to put the toaster on.
Put the toaster on. Dushi and then Peter. How do we kind of create work ready people that are kind of, I don't know, fully baked? They're ready to kind of kick into action as they start the workplace.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, but I think it's all of us investing in, whether it's the courses or training, a lot of the work that Carrie's doing, so trying to give as much exposure and visibility to young people, in schools, through higher education, to what's happening in the industry and what changes are happening and why it's still relevant and interesting and exciting for young people to come into the industry. From my perspective, it's absolutely critical to get new thoughts, new ideas, new viewpoints from young people coming into our business. We need that challenge to people who've been in the business for a while and just looking to try and do things differently. So, an engaged, motivated relationship with universities, schools, education, and providing access to young people into our businesses.
And are there you're talking about that kind of that passion, that excitement. How do we engender that into those individuals? In your experience, have you come across anything that works particularly well?
I think what we do is really cool. Personally, I think, we work on brilliant projects. And you look at the way we're doing things now, I don't know, some of the stuff, same thing for people coming into our business in any role. People will work in their role, giving the opportunity for everyone to see the big picture of projects or activities that have hit the screen or provided access services. One of the exciting projects we worked on was Barbie, American Sign Language, and it was fantastic. The person who did it was fully integrated onto the screen, totally in theme. It's brilliant, the fact you're being able to take content and making it accessible in the right way, the right feel to a broader audience. It's trying to, continue to think about what's all the exciting things we're doing. And that is only, it's only feasible with the on-march of technology.
Yeah, there is.
So I think it's down to us, really.
Yeah, there is something about the fact that we're kind of, as humans, we're essentially storytellers, aren't we? And we kind of, people still like that. Peter, from as you bridge from academia into industry, how do we keep that passion alive, and how do we create, I guess, oven-baked new entrants?
With great difficulty. I think at this stage we need to accept that schools are teaching less and industry wants more, and it's the universities and the training providers that are getting squeezed. I think industry needs to be a little bit more accepting and a little bit more realistic about what they're going to get from graduates and what they're going to get from post-education individuals.
And do you think they're doing it in, we're from the UK, do you think they're doing it better in other countries, in other sectors? Do you think there's something we can learn elsewhere?
There's always things we can learn elsewhere. I think we do it pretty well.
Yeah. I'm not knocking us, by the way.
No.
I think we do it very well.
I think certainly from Ravensbourne's perspective, we had a rough period, and I know Solent has also had a rough period, but we're getting over that now. And what we're finding is that there's an excitement at the university now that there wasn't 3 or 4 years ago. And I think Solent is in the same position, I think. And we've come out the other side of the storm, and the students are finding now, they're discovering things that they weren't before. We've had some new technology donated. We've got 2110 installed now. We've got some fantastic equipment now. They can't complain about the facilities anymore. And we're seeing that in the results. The time that they've spent on that equipment has made them better prepared for industry. And as a result, the ones that have spent that time getting to learn that kit, getting to know the things, are the ones that don't have any problems at all finding jobs. I think to an extent the graduate employment rate from my course is 100%. But it's a case of what jobs they go into. If they want better jobs, then we need to adjust the courses a little bit more. And it's going to take a bit of time, I think.
Do you think I was a founding trustee of a brand new engineering university during COVID, which was interesting. And our premise was the students worked constantly on real-world projects, and then we taught them the academic bits as they went. And it's a tricky thing to pull off, actually, and it's still going. But do you think there's a role for a tighter coupling between the sector and academia in that way, so that they're used to work? Incidentally, these guys also didn't get student holidays and things. They worked all year long on real business projects, quite challenging for them.
I do, but by the middle of about the second year, I expect the students to be working anyway in industry.
Right.
So my course is one of the very few ones that the students actually make money on my course, because they're earning more than they're spending on the tuition fees. So there is a desperate need for these engineers.
Interesting. That's a marketing message. Matt?
I was just going to say what we need, and at the moment, if you look in academia, you have the really clever stuff that you teach, and then you'll have the other course, aside from technology, you'll have the creative courses. There is a role now, and there increasingly will be, for what I call a creative technologist, which I called myself, but I don't really know what it means. But what it is it just sounded good, and I couldn't think of a job title. But what that means
is that creative technologist?
Yeah, that's it. There's a disconnect between technology and editorial. And what we find now in the industry, there's an increasing tension behind the scenes, and just chatting in the bars and stuff, of creatives being given technology that helps them be creative by technologists. So they go, here you go, this is great, have an AI. How does that help me tell a story? Oh no, it's really good, it shuts down, like you can do loads more with, well, can you just explain it? So what I always say when I'm consulting with companies looking at how we bring, anytime we get someone and it's a new technology, I'll make sure they bring a producer or an editor or somebody who does stuff to social into the room to make sure we can actually make this work end to end. And we love the toys and proof of concepts and stuff. You know, I'm a technologist at heart. But then we just hand it over to someone and say, this is really good for you to do your job. And it just doesn't work. And I think that could come out of university and really help. You know, maybe it's some cross-pollination within courses and stuff like that. But I will definitely need that as we move forward, where the blurring between technology and creativity.
Yeah, I like also like those softer skills. That's super important. I think they're the things that you carry through your whole career. Incidentally, I was running strategy for a company once, and we rebranded most of our engineers as technologists, and our CTO called me up and said, "You made me sound like a dental nurse." He got over it. So, winding forward to 2030, what do you think a graduate's first role might be in media and tech? Dushi, that's a tricky one.
The answer, okay. I don't know. From my perspective, I guess from a Deluxe picture, it's very varied. So maybe across media services, where you may previously have had an ingest operator, maybe you're curating the metadata input to make sure that the engine's then doing the right job. So you're having to understand more around the content and what's happening to it afterwards. Maybe you're more aligned to the platforms and services we deliver to you, so you understand Netflix specs or Apple specs, and you understand intrinsically, so that you can make sure that as it's going through and flowing through to platforms, it's working, and how it's then driving the technology on their side. In terms of localization, absolutely, from a dubbing perspective, there's a lot moving, but having the right input data, so whether it's a template or a script, but put together in a form that's going to get the best results out of the technology. Those are the type of things. All of those roles exist, but it's slightly tweaked, different slant, considering the end output and how you're influencing what you get out of the technology pipeline.
So kind of what I'm here is kind of like able to see the bigger picture, I guess.
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah. Well, I think the first job they'll get is turning the server on and off when the AI goes down. But apart from that,
They won't have a server.
oh no, sorry, I was thinking pull cables. I used to pull cables under the floor. I think it will it's going back over some of the things we've said, but it's going to be a lot wider. You know, I don't think you'll come in for a very specific role, and it goes back to that generalist versus specialist. I think we'll see there'll be a midway between a specialist and a generalist, I think, which hopefully will get the best of both worlds.
A general specialist. Peter?
I think they're going to have a CCNA. I think they're going to be fluent in cloud-based broadcast systems, something like AMPP. But I also think that they're still going to be able to find their way around a 3G transmission circuit. They're still going to be able to point a camera. We're going to have these really advanced technologies, but still there's going to be that foundation that's not going anywhere.
Excellent. And you think there are going to be some common skills that you're teaching today that they're still going to need?
Oh, absolutely.
Please tell me
we're already doing that.
Thank God for that. Finally, what do you think's the most important action that we should take to protect, empower the next generation in our industry? I'm going to start with Matt.
I think we need to, all of the new technology we're talking about, we need to go back into university and explain that some of the stuff they're interested in is where we've got the gaps. Because I think, you know, they don't know what we do anymore. They think if you want to get into TV or media entertainment, you become a runner or you sit in a dark room clipping things up. And now I spoke to some media students, and they just all wanted to go into gaming. They loved gaming engines, and I said, well, you know that we use gaming engines for VFX, and to just tell them what there is out there, because you know you ask them now, and they want to go into big tech, Apple, Google, because they don't see us. I think Chris might have said it. They don't see it as a particularly sexy organised industry at the moment. We need to go and tell them that it is. Not
I won't
sexy.
paraphrase that, but yeah. No, I'm kind of
Just
with
don't
you.
quote me on
I am with you. Peter.
Sorry, what was the question?
The question was, what's the most important thing that we can do to make sure that we empower the entrants of the future?
To start with, it comes back to making the industry look sexy. At the moment, it doesn't. It's not far off, but at the moment, we've lost that kind of cutting edge. TV is not cutting edge anymore. Look at the budgets for, coming back to your point about the games industry, the budget for Unreal is massive compared to anything we do in the TV industry. And the kind of forefront of technology has moved now. It's not television, it's games. But actually integrating these two, seeing the two as the same thing, seeing this cross-pollination of these technologies, not just with games, but with other industries as well, with live events and things like that. That's something that we can do. We can teach these to the students. We can make it interesting again.
Yeah. I think it is still interesting, but I'm with you. Dushi.
Yeah, I think it is still very interesting. I think it's really exciting. I think there's loads going on. I think it is actually flattening out. You know, I worked in Redby, I worked in broadcast, more studios, more platform, more streamers. It's all the same skill set. So we're not just talking about broadcast technology, it's everything. So we should provide access and closer relationships in education to make us, you know, to get young people understanding what's happening and all the different applications there are. You know, from a Channel 4 to a Netflix or an Apple TV, you know, it's all the same base case technology and knowledge that they need to then go out and apply them to everything. And you can just see in the news what's happening, what's coming out to screens, and touching on the COVID point, the amount of content that came out, you know, production that's changing, how quickly you can go from production to screen. You know, it's really impressive and it's super exciting. So I think in order for us to continue that, it's closer relationships with young people. And myself and Carrie talk about this a lot. It's, you know, starting early. You know, we want to increase the diversity in our businesses. And in order to do that, we need to start at schools but you know, it's too late otherwise. You've already kind of got a filter before you get to higher education. So we need to get people in.
Excellent. I mean, I summarise a lot of what's been said. I think, we are still an exciting industry, but we're probably seen as a little bit old-fashioned, and our pockets aren't as deep as they once were. But I think that will change over time, and we're going through a recalibration phase, both from a brand perspective, but also from an investment perspective. So I think that's really important. I do think the fact that the basic skills that we probably all learned as we were new entrants have seen us through and allowed us to continue to open our eyes and embrace new things as we go is really important. So it's how do we get them into that first stage, I think, is really important. So thank you very much for your insights, Matt, Peter, Dushi, and I'm sure we'll continue this conversation in the months ahead. So thank you very much.